I'm Mark, and this is the Fast Track Impact podcast for researchers who want to be more productive and achieve real-world impacts from their research. So this week I am out and about. I am in London in the Royal Society, our most austere and ancient research institution in the country. It is my first time. I'm in a room surrounded by very imposing-looking paintings of important-looking scientists, I believe, although I haven't investigated that closely. I'm here for a conference which the Royal Society have organised at the culmination of a 2-year programme of work they've done on research culture. And they've called it Research Culture, Changing Expectations. Research cultures around the world are changing. We are having to adapt to a new way of doing things. And the question is, well, what do we need to change? Can we start afresh? If we had the power, the ability, the resources to do things properly, might we be able to solve some of the endemic problems in research culture that are actually compromising the quality, the ethics, the power of what we do as researchers? And of course, impact is integral to that. Is one of the biggest changes that we've seen in the last decade, certainly in the last few years. And how is that interacting with the other expectations that are on our shoulders and the kind of cultures that we're trying to create within our institutions and across the research sector? Slightly challengingly, I am here for a pitch as well. So Fast Track Impact has been shortlisted for a prize on changing research culture. And I've joined forces with a couple of colleagues who, together with them, that our plan, if we get the award, is to build a new platform that can bring researchers together with the people who have the questions that can actually make those differences. So a matchmaking platform of sorts that is based, in fact, around the concept of Tinder, but Tinder for academics. So I'm going to buzz around here, meet with a few people. I'm going to interview at least one person. And interview the colleagues that I'm pitching with. At this point, it is officially a break, and I need to go to the green room. I've been summoned, and I'm going to be getting instructions on what I need to do because I've got my pitch to do next. So I will talk to you after that.
I'm Richard Massey. I'm an astronomer at Durham University, and I'm here at the Royal Society Research Culture Conference trying to make a better future and a more productive future for scientific research.
Fantastic. So this is the culmination of a 2-year project that the Royal Society have been running, trying to have a think about what is wrong, what is right, what can we build on. And of course, part of our research culture increasingly is research impact. What have you learned from the conference, or what are your views on what role research impact should have in our research culture? Do we have too much of it already? Too much of a good thing? Do we need more of this? And how can we integrate impact into our research cultures in more healthy ways?
What I've learned from the conference so far is that clearly the research culture has flaws at the moment. There are lots of things which are good, but there's lots of things in sort of the practice of science and how it's conducted that aren't as efficient or as fair or as equitable as they could be. And lots of people have many different gripes. We've been having long discussions about maybe how to fix those. And in fact, we've been having discussions, of course, for decades over how to try and incrementally improve things. And one of the things that is coming out today, perhaps, is that we don't need to incrementally change things, but sit down and think, what would a really good research culture look like? What would the ideal features of it be? Throw away that, sort of start from a clean slate and reinvent things and then set that as a goal and aim towards that rather than starting from what we have now and tweaking a few bits here and there.
Yeah, so it's that bad that we need to check it out? Or actually, you know what, let's just be really innovative and let's actually have some hope here because, you know what, these conversations have been going on for a very, very long time. So from your perspective or gleaning from some of the things that others have been saying in this conference, starting from scratch, what are some of the key things that you would love to see in a refreshed research culture?
Yeah, so it's definitely the optimistic view of let's see what we're trying to aim at. There's then the separate question about how do we implement it in practice, and for that, of course, we have to figure out where we're coming from and what the system is now. But I mean, let's just be bold and innovative and try and think, well, what should it involve? And of those things, certainly the research culture should be more humane. In many ways, the people doing research are people, and we should be, sort of treated as that. Often, particularly early career researchers at the moment are almost indentured in some ways to a certain research project on very short-term contracts and forced to work in certain ways in certain labs. Now, that isn't compatible with creativity and scientific thought, which often takes a long, long time to get going. So any sort of future ideal research should have a long-term outlook. This is challenging because it requires a long-term commitment to people, to projects, to experiments. But it's the only way that really sort of innovative things happen. If you're constantly chasing the next grant on the next one-year timescale or chasing another job, then which is the current system, you're inevitably producing very low-risk science, things that you can just guarantee that something will happen in the next year or so. Whereas if you really want to have big change and achieve big things, then it requires time and commitment and just a broader, longer-term outlook.
Yeah. So this humane approach to these long-term relationships with our subjects and with each other, when you apply these beyond the academy to the people who might want to use that work, who ultimately might benefit from it, how do you apply that humane approach beyond the academy, beyond just how we treat our PhD students, our postdocs, each other in our academic cohort?
Well, one very interesting idea actually has come out of some of the discussions this morning, which is that inevitably funding for blue skies research is often quite piecemeal. And that's partly what leads to short-term contracts and some of the problems that we have about incrementalism today. One way to perhaps improve that situation without necessarily having more science funding is for universities or university departments to band together a little bit and offer, say, postdocs or any academics, in fact, chance to do placements or rotations, a bit like junior doctors do, in other departments. This will not only sort of lengthen contracts and give people sort of a longer time between having to move to a different continent, say, to get the next job, but it will increase the interdisciplinary thought processes and get people to learn or appreciate a broader amount of knowledge, so exchange ideas, but also exchange good practice and good research culture. So that could even just be within universities, but it could even be with local industry. A lot of PhD places these days are being funded with a specific eye to get researchers working with universities, and there are in fact these 6-month placements where people can go and work in local industry. We've had a lot of successful examples of that happening in Durham and around the northeast of the university engaging with local industry and trying to help that sort of, or produce that entrepreneurial spirit between universities and industry. This is, I mean, it's terrific. Hopefully, it's going to be good for the local economy. But more than that, it's just going to encourage more and more and drag more and more people into research. The government has set a target of spending 2.4% of GDP on research. That's a big increase on what it is. So we need new people to manage and drive and push that research. Involving industry with that is going to be necessary, in fact.
Yeah, and then you get the multipliers as well when you start to actually add in that industry funding and actually just being more creative. So if there is going to be an injection of money, how could we use that in a different way? And that reorganization that you're talking about seems to be a multiple win situation. So yeah, we're more humane, we have longer job contracts, and you've got some stability, and you can plan, you can get a mortgage, that kind of thing, which of course is vitally important. But when you do that between departments within a university, you're facilitating translating that into disciplinarity, which is very often what is needed to actually address the kind of challenges that we are faced with in the world outside and that people come to us with. And because you've got that long-term thinking, actually then you have long-term relationships and you don't have people on short-term contracts having to jump out of relationships with people outside the academy simply because they're now in a new job, in a different university, potentially in a different field if they've had to discipline hop in order to get a job. And so ultimately that long-term thinking should in theory not just be humane and good for early career researchers, but actually play a dividend back to our sector and to the world.
Oh, completely. I agree. You've said that very well. Let me think of a...
No, that's fine. I thought you looked like you were going to say something else, but that's fine.
You said it.
Yeah, there you go. Brilliant. So I think I'll finish it there, but if you want to... any final words? How do we think? Anything final you want to say before we close it?
Okay. Engaging or forcing links between academia and industry just for the sake of it isn't necessarily the right thing to do. But if there really is going to be a big increase in research funding, it's a tremendous opportunity to improve those links and create more of the Silicon Valley feel or the entrepreneurship that is possible in places around the world, bring some of that to the UK. But to do that not as a stick to force universities to give up blue skies research, but as a carrot instead, that the good can come out of it, that in fact the universities can get more out of it. Research can be better with external viewpoints and other ideas. That can be a really positive message for the future rather than another big stick.
Hi, this is Alison Vipond. I work in Research and Innovation Services at Northumbria University. My role there is to enable academics to get research funding to work specifically with industry. So I guess you could say that my main focus is working on the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund and trying to make a difference so that research can change the game for industry. I've had the pleasure of taking part in the first day of the Royal Society's conference today on research culture, changing expectations. It has surpassed my expectations. It's been a fantastic day. Research culture is an all-encompassing concept, and today has broken it down into some of the kind of more bite-sized things that we can get a hold of. And I think one of the main things that I'm going to take away from today is supporting our early career researchers. There has never been a kind of more pressured time, I think, to be an early career researcher. Pressures to win research funding, to continue to publish, to travel internationally, to get inspired. And I think that they really need time to feel creative and to explore what it is that they love about research. And part of that probably is making an impact for society. The other thing that I've learned personally today is actually it made me explore the reasons that I left academia. And it made me have a bit of a tinge of regret, because I thought when I left academia 20 years ago, the research culture was not very inclusive. I wanted to have a bit of stability, job security, raise a family, that kind of thing, and I couldn't see that happening. I think now the tide is beginning to turn, and we've had some really excellent presentations today about flexibility in the workplace, diversity and inclusivity, addressing the gender balance. So I think that the tide is turning and we need to keep moving in the right direction. Collaboration is a word that's been used a lot today, and also competition, and maybe things have become overly competitive. That might be through getting grant funding, getting published in the high impact factor journals, and also the ref, trying to compete there as well. So I think maybe we've gone too far in that we're competing too much with each other. We should collaborate a bit more. But a little bit of competition is healthy as well, as we saw in the pitch sessions at the end, which were some really excellent concrete suggestions on how we can have ideas and implement those ideas to improve research culture.
Well, it's been a long day, but I've got to the end of it, and hopefully have managed to share a few of the insights with you from the couple of interviews I managed to purloin during breaks. Lots of inspiring speakers. interesting ideas, research culture changing, and at this point in history, the Royal Society looking at what we can do to think differently about the kind of research cultures we want. I won't say too much more of my own reflections, other than to say that you probably guessed from my interview with Alison that I, at that point, had done my pitch. And, of course, now, at the end of the day, I finished my pitch. I'm feeling very relieved. And the good news is that Fast Track Impact were one of 3 winners out of 6 people who pitched for the Royal Society Award, and we get a small cash prize as well as part of that, which we'll be injecting into the idea that we pitched. So I joined forces with Rich Young and Tanya Collavo from Univate for an idea to develop essentially what might sound hideous, but bear with me, the idea of Tinder for academics, for researchers, but matchmaking between those of us who have research and data and ideas from that side, and the professionals out there from business, from third sector, the social entrepreneurs, the small to medium-sized enterprises, the charities, the policy organizations who don't have the funding, but who still have the ideas and the need for knowledge, and to try and democratize that by matchmaking between these people who need answers and those of us in the research world who are looking for problems to solve. And so the idea is a platform that enables us to find each other. It's a curated platform drawing on existing researcher credentials from sources like ORCID and others, and an invitation-only opportunity for those in the early stages from outside academia who can come in and pitch their questions and initiate collaborations. Crucially for me, though, this is not just about kind of that flash in the pan, social media kind of thing. This is about a starting point for new collaborations, for new relationships. And what Fast Track Impact are building with this is a platform where you can find all of our latest resources and free training and templates and guides, case studies of things that have worked and explaining why they've worked, all that kind of stuff, in the context of a place where you can keep coming back and finding new relationships, new collaborations, new people who can inspire you to answer new questions and do cool new stuff. But this is about the long term. This is about enabling us to build capacity and to reach new people who might otherwise not have engaged with our training, with the ideas, with the evidence that's coming out of the research that I and my colleagues are doing in Fast Track Impact. But to wrap these up in this platform, it'll be a desk-based desktop platform to start with, hopefully moving to an app with time. This is the first time we've gone public with this idea. We've been cooking this for some time, but we've been keeping it under wraps. But we thought that for this, it was worth revealing our ideas and seeing what people thought of it. And it seems that people think this is a good idea. So I'd love to hear what you think about this. Is this the kind of thing that you feel we need as a community? Is this the kind of space that you would occupy, that you would get benefits from? And this is very much in the early stages of development. We've got a long way to go, a lot more funding that we will need to source to make it a reality. That's Rich and Tanya's side of things. They're doing the technical stuff. So whether or not we actually get through to a product at the end of the day, who knows? This is the idea stage. But what a start, getting that endorsement. And of course, because this is the idea stage, this is a chance for you to give us that feedback and your ideas. How would you design this? What kind of are the things that would prevent you from interacting with a platform like this? How could we make this something that would actually attract you and be something that would really add value to your ability to reach out to and make a difference to more people and help more people from your research? Research culture is changing. This is a really challenging time for many of us. In the UK, we're approaching Brexit, but internationally there is an increasing focus on how we spend research funding. Does this now mean that we become people who don't value knowledge for knowledge's sake anymore? Does this mean that as a result that we narrow and instrumentalize our opinion of what actually represents a good return on public investment and what we should be doing with public money in research? Impact is in the frame here. Is impact what is driving these new research cultures that are increasingly instrumentalizing and managerializing our experience of what it is to be a researcher? Or actually is impact a part of the solution? If we can start to build more healthy research cultures that enable us to create long-term relationships with our colleagues, we start to create these long-term contracts, so we're not constantly looking for the next job, for the next opportunity, discipline hopping to just find something to put food on the table. We can start to invest for the long term now in research that can make a difference and in the relationships that are always at the center of good knowledge exchange and impact that matters. I believe we need healthy impact cultures, and a healthy impact culture can have a beautiful, positive feedback to research cultures that enables people to do more and better research, to ask more and more searching, interdisciplinary, more complex, more real-world questions that push our disciplines forward, push forward the frontiers of knowledge at the same time as delivering answers to questions that real people out there in the world desperately need answers to. I feel hopeful at the end of this conference that this is an opportunity to rethink our research culture and to rethink the position of impact within that culture.